Morning. Friday. I'm going to carry on with trying to get some more rotation into my spine today. Welcome to anybody who's just joining for the first time. Follow along as you can, more as you like really, rather than as you can. So not so important what you can do, more important what you want to do, what feels good, listening to your body. I know that's said a lot, people say it a lot, but really I mean it. Fine-tuning, listening, tuning in, zooming in, becoming more aware of the body and of how we feel about the body, so that we can make deeper, more profound changes. So, go along with it. Generally I speak in the first person, and I might just dip out every now and again to address you, whoever you are, wherever you are. But I'm going to just have a lie down to start with and switch into first person. It's Friday! Wow, I cannot believe it. What a week. What a whole bunch of weeks. So I'm just lying down. Arms long, legs long. Because it's comfortable for me, I'm able to be there comfortably. All the way through the practice, my own comfort and my own curiosity is my guide. I just see what it's like to roll my head side to side, and I don't push at all. I make no effort, I just notice. Not a lot of rolling in my head today. Not all that much that's available easily. I could easily go further. But it would mean just pushing past this first little grain of resistance I feel in each direction. So I'm not going to push, I just want to test it. And then I rest. Noticing how I settle into the ground, how I feel, taking in my general state of being, the thoughts that are on my mind, as well as my body, how I'm making contact with the ground, what I can sense in my muscles. I try to sort of visualize a skeleton. It doesn't need to be anatomically accurate, but just a sort of childlike drawing of a skeleton. A head, shoulder girdle, two arms coming down. Where are the arms going? What's the direction? How are they bent? How are they turned? How do the hands make contact with the floor? Imagining the skeleton. Down through the chest, the rib cage. How do the shoulders sit on the rib cage? What are the quirks about this particular skeleton in this moment? Down through the spine. Can I just somehow visualize this sort of approximate length of the spine, the direction, any twists or turns I can feel? Down to the pelvis. The spine is embedded in the back of the pelvis. There's the bowl of the pelvis. The two legs, how do the legs come out of the pelvis? From the hip joints. Rough direction of the two upper thigh, the thigh bones, the knees, any bend at the knees, my skeleton, down the shins to the heels, the feet. What direction are the feet pointing in? How close or far apart are the toes in the foot on each side? Down the whole length of the foot. And then I kind of have this vague idea of my skeleton. I just pay attention a little bit more to my contact with the ground. And I'm just kind of pushing my feet around a little bit on the floor, almost like a baby does. Bending and lengthening their knees, little kicks as they bend and lengthen their knees. The knees just sort of flopped out to the side. And I pull up both heels with the knees bent a little bit and then one or the other. I just see kind of swimming my legs around a little bit but with my feet on the floor still. Just only doing really what's very, very easy. So I've got definitely more availability for movement in my right hip. My left one doesn't want to go quite so far. It's fine, but maybe I want to move a bit on the floor. Wriggle says that my right leg feels easier to move. And just starting a little wriggle. I want to really start with a wriggle today. So I let this wriggle of the legs pass up through the body. I feel a nice little stretch through my torso, all the muscles between the ribs. And then I just bring my feet to standing and pause for a moment. And I see how I feel. For me, it's quite a nice relief to have that contact with the back of the body against the ground. And I'm going to start to roll and wriggle a little bit again. I'm just rolling side to side. This is really important that I'm comfy on the floor, so I'm not on a wooden floor with just a little skinny yoga mat on top of it. I'm on a carpet with a blanket on top. So anybody joining in, just want to reinforce that idea. Maybe you want to just put down blankets or a bunch of towels to lie on, something just to pad the ground. I want to feel like a baby on a playmat. And I just open my eyes and roll my head around, and I'm really just being very kind of like non-ambitious. I'm very unambitious with my movement, and I'm kind of like, I don't have a lot of intention, just to roll. My only intention is like to roll and to wriggle, to move my arms and legs a bit, to move my belly, look up and down and around. Play with anything I find interesting. And I roll onto one side and I just keep wriggling a little bit, and maybe it's rolling backwards and forwards, maybe it's bending and lengthening my legs, maybe it's crossing my arms. I ended up rolling back onto my back without even thinking about it. So I roll back onto my side, staying on one side for a little bit, rolling and wriggling. I roll back onto my back. I just lengthen my legs and rest a bit. I feel I'm kind of settling into the ground a little bit already, just from these little wriggles. I'm not pushing or stretching. I'm just kind of using the floor as a partner. And I'm wriggling against the floor so that I can kind of shift my tissue around. I start again while I talk through what I'm doing. I like bend my knees and I can feel my skin of my body stuck to the ground, and I'm shifting my ribs around inside my skin. And I just keep moving and I'm kind of using the floor as a partner to feel different parts of myself in contact with the floor. Rolling and squidging and softening into the ground. I roll to my second side. And I really feel the contact with the ground. So as I roll on this side, for some reason more than the other, I'm aware of the big muscles at the side of the ribs, underneath the armpits. My lats coming down. I feel kind of chunky. I can roll over those muscles on the ground. Rolling a little bit more to lie towards my belly and towards my back again. Primarily lying on my side and then seeing where I go from there. If I just take the floor as a nice squidgy partner. Rolling, wriggling. So my muscles can kind of soften. Obviously I'm using muscles to roll, but there's no strain, there's just pleasure. Hooray. I'm gonna roll to my belly and keep going, lying on my belly. Oh no, I'm not. I want to rest, turns out. So I'm just setting a good example for anybody following along. I just did the rest because I suddenly felt like it. I was comfy and I thought, okay, that's a good moment to rest. So I would just encourage anybody following along to do that regardless of when I'm actually resting or not. And I start again to just jiggle around a little bit, move myself on the floor. Feel quite lazy. I've got my hands underneath. I'll talk through this because it's a little bit more specific. I've got my hands underneath the side of my pelvis. I'll just roll to the side and show. So I'm kind of like that. My wrists just fit under my pelvis and my thumbs fit into the groin. And I'm just lying on my hands. And with my wrists in, basically my wrists and my lower arms then are supporting underneath my hips, underneath my hip flexors. So it's a little pillow. I'm using the what's that called? The heel of the hand. I'm using the heel of the hand as a little pillow under my groin and hip flexors to just support the little gap that I feel there. I have tight hip flexors, so I'm just providing a little support there, a little pillow for my hips. And then with my hands there, with that extra little support under my hips, under the front of my hips, it becomes easier for me to jiggle my heels around. So I open and close my heels very softly. I'm not doing anything that is any strain. Opening and closing is okay. Actually, I want to go side to side. I'm just moving my hands a little bit to make that more possible. I've taken my hands a little bit out, but my thumbs are still under my front of my groin, kind of like around the bikini line, the pant line. So my heels are going side to side, and that means that my legs are kind of jiggling side to side, rolling side to side. My pelvis is rolling side to side. My belly's squidgy on the ground. As my pelvis rolls side to side, I can feel a little bit of movement up in my ribs. So I'm interested in this rolling side to side of the heels so that it can gellify my hips and begin to gellify my rib cage. Gellify is a really sophisticated anatomical word from sports science. Professional terminology, gellify. And I vary the speed at which I take the heels side to side, so when I feel like it's really soft I can go in a smaller, faster movement. I really enjoy the feeling of my breastbone and the front of the ribs sliding inside the skin of the chest. And then I rest. And I'm actually going to roll onto my back to rest because of that work that I was doing with the hips and the ribs. I feel that might make some difference, and I want to just see how I'm lying now. Noticing my contact with the ground. Just getting a little sense of the skeleton. Checking back in with the roughly drawn skeleton of myself. Definitely notice my right arm is lying differently. I'm a little more typical skeleton shape and a little less sprawling. Still got some interesting kinks and curves. Kinks and twists. Come back to rolling my head side to side and see how that feels. Oh, it's got much easier one way, but it hasn't got easier at all the other way. So now my head rolls like butter melting to the right, and it doesn't go to the left at all. I could make it go to the left, but I don't need to. Who cares? It'll go to the left some other time. So I just roll over onto my belly again, and I want to just kind of come back to this idea of just using the floor as a partner. And just spreading myself out, stretching, rolling, a much less specific. No specific movement, no specific guide about where my arms go, where my legs go, where my body goes, where my head goes, but it can go, anything can go anywhere, as long as I'm just kind of pleasurably using the ground to feel what's happening in my body, using the ground for support. I can spread my hands out and use my hands. I can feel my head rolling. I can kind of give in and just flop and be very lazy. I can softly waggle my legs around. I can get my arms stuck in funny places. What's it like to lie across my arm? And again, like I did when I was on the side, I could actually roll to one side or roll to the other. My primary sort of position is the belly, lying on the belly. But what happens then is really up for grabs. I just want to roll. Out of rolling, I can find all of the cardinal movements of the spine. Flexion, extension, rather extension flexion, I should have said. Side bending, opening up one side of the ribs, opening up the other side of the ribs. And twisting, rotation. I feel my thighs rolling out on the ground. I got tight thighs. I feel I can use the ground to just squidge my thigh muscles. And I try to kind of change the rhythm of what I'm doing every now and again, so I'm kind of constantly moving. I could stop whenever I want. But I'm also like just trying to play around a bit with the rhythm of what I'm doing, because I don't get stuck in one way. So playing with the rhythm. I come up onto all fours, and I'm just going to keep moving around between all fours. Elbows, knees, hands, feet. And kind of like coming up and down off the mat. But belly down all the time. So as if I'm just starting on my belly. I can do what I want on my belly. Changing my rhythm again. It's really nice to get into a flow with a rhythm. And it also means that certain things happen in certain ways and maybe you miss out on other ways of things happening. So I just change the rhythm and start again. So anything belly down. Crawling, walking on hands and feet. Crouching. Spreading legs, spreading hips. Getting one foot underneath me to come into kind of nice lazy hip stretch. So I just have my front knee bent and my back knee long. And just do whatever's possible. I'm doing quite a lot of big movements, but the movements don't necessarily have to be big. It's just worth saying. And then I'm bringing the other leg up. Rolling onto that other leg. I've got the knee bent, front knee bent, back leg long. Is that the same leg I just did? No, I don't think it is. No, I don't think it is. And the front knee bent can go anywhere. The heel can be inside or outside. As long as it's soft, I'm not straining, I'm not pushing into deep stretches. Moving my pelvis around, letting my eyes and jaw be soft. Coming back to my partner, the floor. Resting. Playing again, moving. resting. And then I'm going to roll to lie on my back. Wow, I feel exactly like the weather. Kind of blank. Kind of clear, like a clear slate. Just notice my skeleton, how I'm making contact with the floor. I'm going to come into side sitting. So I've got my both knees bent and both feet pointing to the right. So my left lower leg is in front of me and my right foot is down somewhere near my right buttock. I could just lean on my left hand to make life a little more comfortable. And I'm just going to turn to look behind me and come back. I mean, I can just be so casual about this. How far can I go? What's comfortable? Try a few times. Fine. Put my other leg in front, take my legs the other way, lean on the other hand, chill out a bit, and turn to look over that shoulder. Fine. Okay. And I come back to the other side. And I'm gonna look behind me and I'm gonna reach, so I'm leaning on my left hand and I'm gonna reach my right hand behind me and I'm gonna just kind of zone out and look at my right hand, like, ooh. I painted my fingernails. I feel like a child. Painted my fingernails. I'm gonna like look at my fingernails and just zone into my fingernails and turn to look over my left shoulder and reach my right hand around at the same time and just zone into my fingernails and come back. Turning around. I mean, I'm being sort of playful about the fingernail thing, but it's a functional pattern. So I'm choosing to look at my own hand. This is a Feldenkrais lesson, another bastardized Feldenkrais lesson. Turning to look behind me. I'm going to keep looking at my hand, but I'm going to look up and down. I'm going to take my hand up and look at it. And take my hand down and look at it. And all the time that I do this, with everything that I do, unless I specify otherwise, I'm trying to find a movement of the whole self. How can I get more of myself engaged in this action? So I'm kind of zoning out and looking at my finger. I can let my hand come down and rest whenever I want. I can go further. I'm starting to just take my hands now. I wanted to rest my hand down. So I'm still leaning my left hand. I'm going to take my right fingertips down onto the ground and I'm just going to kind of sweep them on the floor behind me a little bit. And I'm almost going to, I'll change my angle so you can see. I'm almost gonna kind of feed my right fingertips underneath my left hand and have a look under there so I can feel my back rounds a little bit if I want to follow my fingertips, gazing, looking at my fingertips as they reach under that arm. And then I come back and I just play with that. Can I look underneath that arm at those fingertips? And I just keep reaching a little bit and seeing where I can go and shifting my weight. And I come back and I just want to rest. Just resting and sitting. And then taking myself back into that rotation and just turning to look behind me, see how it feels. Maybe a little bit easier. Compare it to the other side, take the legs the other way, leaning on the other hand, turn to look behind me. Can't tell. I can't tell if that's any different or not. I'm not sure. Why don't I play on this side a bit? I'm going to again look at the. So now my feet are pointing to the left, looking at my right hand. My right hand is starting just flopped in front of my chest, and I turn, looking at my hand, and come back, zoning into my fingers. Keeping my arms soft. I can feel so many little differences about how far I can turn, depending on literally the angle of where my elbow is, or the angle of my fingers and my hand. So different. So I'm trying to have this kind of global attention, paying attention to my whole body so that I can notice everything that comes up, expand my field of awareness. But at the same time, of course, I'm looking at my lovely red fingernails. And I'm just turning over my shoulder, my right shoulder, as I lean on my right hand. I'm going to just rest for a moment. And then I'm going to keep going, reaching this left hand around to the right. And I'm just going to lift it up and down a little, still looking at my fingertips. Reaching around a little lower. Coming back a bit, reaching around a little higher. Everything is so soft. I'm letting my pelvis move, I'm letting my feet move. Reaching my arm in different places. And then I rest my hand down and I'm coming back like I did on the other side to sweeping my arm around on the floor. Trying to let still looking at my fingertips. I can feel so much happening in my back, in the back of my ribs, back of my neck and shoulders. I could also be on the fingertips of the right hand for support. That's an alternative support. Just softly sweeping my hand around. I'm feeling almost like a kind of seaweed body. My pelvis is moving, my thighs are moving. I just look at my hand and I'm going to keep leaning on my right hand and take my left hand down. See, how can I kind of look at my left fingertips as they go underneath the bridge created under my right arm on the floor. So I'm sort of rolling. I can feel my back rounding more. It's pretty extreme for me. as I'm waking up all of the muscles in the back. Stay soft. I feel I started to effort a little bit in, like, over tightening a little bit in my right hip, so I just paused and make it smaller. Really like nothing, almost nothing. Just being in a twisted, flexed position in my spine. My pelvis is rolled a little. Playing with my fingertips on the ground underneath the bridge of my right arm. And I can start to go a little bit further again as I soften, and I can let my pelvis roll on the ground. So really all my weight is on the right side of my pelvis, the left side of my pelvis is lifted. I'm breathing. And I just want to have a complete rest. I just need to lie down on my side for a moment. We come back to the same side, sitting. I'm going to see what it's like now to lean on my right hand and turn to look over my right. Ooh, yeah, it's better. It's better. And changing over the legs and looking the other way. I kind of got a bit sticky on this side again now. I'm just going to lie down, have a rest. I'm going to take my fingertips and use my fingertips to feel my collarbones. And I'm trying to be very specific about the fact that it's my collarbones on either side. So I'm just feeling only the collarbone as much as possible. Tracing along the line of the collarbone. And I rest my hands down. And then I'm taking my fingertips to the squidgy bit at the base of the ribs. They call it the solar plexus, don't they? That bit where if you get punched you get winded. So the base of the breastbone. And I'm just using, again, my fingertips, only my fingertips, to just press into there a little bit. And feel the base of the ribs. Where the breastbone turns into the bottom of the ribs. And I just use my fingertips to move around the bottom of the ribs. I'm being so gentle and so specific about what I'm touching. Obviously there's a lot of muscle and flesh, but I'm just trying to feel the bone. Trying to softly sink my fingers in a little bit underneath the bottom of the rib cage, following along the line of the ribs at the bottom. Surprised by the direction they go in. Anywhere that feels good, anywhere that feels soft and relieving, I just keep my fingers there and it helps me soften. right down to the side of the ribs, where the ribs turn into the waist. And I feel there's an extra rib down there that I didn't find. I've got to go a bit lower than I expected. And I pause, rest my arms down. And I just breathe and feel my ribs moving as I breathe. I'm just going to bend my knees and stand my feet a bit just to make my back a little comfier. I like the feeling of the back against the ground with my knees bent. And then I'm going to lengthen my legs again. And taking my fingertips up. Now, to the same part of the squidgy bit, the solar plexus, the same part of the squidgy bit at the bottom of the breastbone. Now I'm feeling with my fingertips up the breastbone. And I really want to feel the bony structure of the breastbone. Can I feel where the breastbone turns into ribs? So I go up with my fingertips right in the middle of the breastbone and I feel the amazing texture of the bone. And at each level I kind of move my fingers up a step, but at each step I take my fingers wider and wider and wider, pressing gently until I can feel that actually my breastbone has turned into ribs, and I take my fingers back to the center again and come a little bit higher. All my fingertips feeling all the amazing kind of armor plating of the breastbone. Taking my fingers wider to feel where does the breastbone become ribs. Maybe you can't tell. Sometimes it's hard to feel what's breastbone and what's rib. Standing my feet again to make myself a little comfier. Continuing up. I get into the upper chest and the ribs become really clear up there, just underneath my collarbones. I can feel the kind of tin ribs. I've got big ribs. My mum would always say tin ribs. And I'm just feeling around at the top of the breastbone, trying to feel what is breastbone, what is ribs, and what is collarbone. And then I just come back to the collarbone and I feel along the underneath edge of the collarbone, trying to differentiate in my feeling what is collarbone, what is ribs. And then it goes out to the shoulder and I'm just going to leave that. Leave my arms to come down and breathe. I'm going to roll to my side. I actually want to come to kneeling. You could do this sitting as well, but I want to have a long spine, so for me that's easiest. Kneeling. You could do it sitting on a chair. I've got my fingertips on my own breastbone, and I'm going to very softly steer my breastbone over to the left, and it rotates me a little bit. Steering with my fingertips, my own breastbone, over to the left. All the time this global awareness where I could soften elsewhere. There's no sense in me forcing it. There's no point in pushing hard or forcing, artificially rotating. Just trying to so softly feel that with my own fingertips I can slide my breastbone a little bit to the left. And if the rest of me can be soft enough, then that can invite a little bit of rotation in the ribs. And of course my elbows are hanging low. So as I slide my breastbone to the right, my fingertips slide my breastbone to the right, then my arms are coming with that, my elbows are turning. And I feel a little bit pressing down so that I turn and go down. Pushing my fingertips to the side, to the left and down. Different places in the breastbone. Then going up. Sliding my fingertips a little to the left and up. All the time the global awareness makes me feel, okay, I can soften my right hip more. My belly, that means I'm actually going to fall off my heels. And I just want to rest from kneeling, so I'm coming into easy sitting for a rest for my knees. Just in sitting, without really thinking about how, I just see what it feels like to turn one way and turn the other way. And I feel some clarity in the turning to the left after that work with my breastbone. Which is nice because I normally can only turn to the right. I'll go to the right, back to kneeling, fingers on the middle of the breastbone. Sliding, displacing the breastbone to the right. I start so small because I want to start with what I can feel, not impose something that I can't feel. And again, my attention drifts around my body and I notice, oh wow, there was a lot more I could relax, so I softened other parts of myself. Letting my head also go with it, so turning with the head at the same time, very softly, only as much as the breastbone is willing to go. So surprised that it's harder this way for me. Go to the left a bit to see how did that feel. That was nice, I liked that. I'll come back through the center and go to the right. I can't. Go to the left. That's nice. And go to the right. Fine. Sit again, rest again, turn. Easier turning to the right as well now, even though it felt more difficult to do the actual task. And I'm gonna come now back into this side sitting position. I've got my feet to the left this time, so I'm leaning on my right hand. And I'm gonna now take my left fingertips to my breastbone and turn myself to the right. With my left fingertips gently sliding my breastbone to the right. I've now got my palm on my chest, my whole palm, not just my fingertips. I feel my ribs moving to the right, and I come down, my hand on my belly, soft, repetitive movements of rolling my center, my midline, middle of my belly, middle of my ribs, middle of my chest, a little to the right and back. And I'm going to keep going up to my face, to my mouth, keeping my hand across my face, turning, my hand comes to my forehead, turning, hand going to the top of the head. Can I turn my own head? Can I turn myself from my head with my own hand? I'm letting the pelvis move, I'm letting everything be responsive. How much of myself can I include in this movement? And then I rest. Turn. Just want to test turning that way, looking behind me, and then come to the other side, second side. Friday, soft work on a Friday. My right hand to my breastbone, turning, just trying to softly displace my breastbone to the left. Using my right, leaning on my left hand, using my right fingertips to help my breastbone feel how to turn. I'm going to use my whole hand now. My head is going to sometimes I do a small movement, sometimes I go further, I come back a little bit, feeling all of this tissue, all the fascia sliding across the chest. Letting everything be involved, taking my hand down over my belly. My hand come to my pubic bone. Can I move my own pubic bone, the bowl of my own pelvis? Letting my pelvis move, so my weight is on the left side of my pelvis and it's rolling further to the left as the right sitting bone lifts. Just pull my belly back towards my right a little bit. I feel that would help my right hip. To the right and left, right and left, right and left, right and left. And I start to move my hand up my belly right, pulling my belly right, spilling my belly left. Higher up the belly. Oh, I need to rest my right hand. So busy paying attention to all of the rest of myself that I didn't pay any attention to my hand and lower arm, and I got tired there. What if I just use my left hand for a bit? So I haven't got anything to lean on, but I could still just use my left hand to pull my ribs, my belly, my chest, my breasts to the left, softly. I lean on my left hand again and keep going now with my right hand, using my right hand to help me turn to the left, up to my collarbones, up to my neck, my face. As my hand comes up over my face, of course my elbow is moving. As my elbow moves, that's changing what's happening in my ribs as well. I take my hand to the top of the head. Can I turn my own head like a puppet of myself to the left and back? Soft eyes. I've got my eyes closed, but they're really soft. And I just look all the way around behind me, and I open my eyes and I just look once all the way back and round. And I see how I feel, and I go the other way again. And I want to just shift a bit between one side and the other side sitting. Really softly. So I'm leaning back on my hands to shift one side and then the other. And I don't need to push, I don't need to go far. I'm just trying to softly turn and let my whole body twist. My knees rest and I turn. Or maybe I play on one side a little bit. Looking up, looking down. Feel that if I do a nice big circle with my chest, then I can get into my hips in a different way. And over to the other side again. Letting my eyes now guide me. Finishing with a little exploration of how the eyes move me in space. If I follow my eyes and keep my chest soft, everything else can just accommodate where my eyes want to go. Looking over one way, rolling to the other side. Everything rolls. And then I let my eyes just lead me all the way. Anywhere I want. Arms, legs, anything goes anywhere. Just to finish. I'm going to lie down for a second. See how that feels. Oh, feels good. Calm. And then I'm gonna roll to my side and just finish standing, a little scan in standing. Getting again a sense of my own skeleton. I turn one way, I turn the other way. I take a little walk.